Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Friday. It's Tell Your Friend Friday. If you like what we're doing here, share it with your buddies. Share something. You know, you write something that stands out, write it down. You take a snapshot with your phone. You tag Wisdom of the Sages. Or you just send the link to the podcast with someone who you feel is, everybody's got a friend that's sort of like teetering on the edge of like, maybe I need something spiritual in my life. You could help them out. You could save them. Share it with a friend. Share it with 3 friends today. Let's make this community get bigger and bigger and bigger. Speaking of that, Kaustubha, there's always going to be people who don't like you.
Oh no, what happened?
It doesn't matter what you do in this world. I mean, look at Jesus. He's like the Prince of Peace. They killed him.
Right.
There's always going to be, no matter what you do, there'll always be at least one, but probably maybe a posse getting together to try to take you down. And you know what you want to do? You want to fight them. You want to get back at them. You want to have a turbo scenario in your mind of revenge. Oh, when I get my hands on them, push them off a cliff. But you know what?
What?
I heard this great analogy. It's like, you got to be like the eagle, the majestic eagle. Majestic eagle is very majestic.
It's a very majestic bird.
It is a majestic bird. I saw one yesterday. There's eagles everywhere.
You know, New York is like crazy. The birds that are coming in now. You know, you got eagles. I saw an eagle the other day.
I saw 2 bald eagles. I'm one of those guys who always has to up.
I saw 2. One upper.
Saturday Night Live person who always had to upscale. I can't remember.
2 eagles.
If you remember the Saturday Night Live character, but yeah, Kaustubha saw 1. I saw 2. But I did. Every day we'd see these 2 bald eagles sitting and eating something. I can't remember.
Kevin Shanahan saw 3.
Oh yeah. Anyway,
so it's a majestic bird. Go
majestic.
On. Yeah.
But crows are actually very clever, but they're considered like
even the Bhagavatam kind of like speaks of the crow as like kind of
at least in the Bhagavatam's eyes, it's like considered a lower caste bird.
It's a scavenger.
Yeah.
It feasts in the dirty places, right?
Person feasts in the rubbish. Although they are incredibly intelligent and they do bring you things. Do you know that? Crows, if you leave food for them, they will bring you something shiny, maybe even a ring, like whatever they find, they'll bring it to this. Anyway, I don't want to glorify the crow.
Even the crow is
an analogy for the bad guy.
All right, let's go with crow's bad guy for now.
Pick on the majestic birds and peck, because they'll get on their back and peck at them.
Yeah,
and it will actually hang on their back. So the eagle doesn't worry about it. He just flies higher and higher and higher until the crow cannot take the altitude. Isn't that a nice analogy? Because the idea is that when you're acting in a noble way, in a dharmic way, in a way of character, sometimes when I first joined the temple, it was hard to do. It was hard to go against you know, like your family's like, don't do this. Are you crazy? They think you're doing something nefarious sometimes. What to speak of, you're like doing the best you can. I'm 22 years old. I'm trying to control my senses. I'm walking around on this road. It takes a lot to make, you know, a grown teenager or 22-year-old walk around a big orange robe. So you're trying to do everything right.
Mm-hmm.
And still people feel that you're doing something wrong. What to speak of, they might even think you're doing something nefarious or evil.
Right.
So you'll always get people down on you. And if you're trying to fly that noble path and people are picking at you, trying to take you down, you just got to fly higher.
Even though it may be justified, so to say, to engage on that level.
Oh, you're saying it's okay for them to peck? Or
No,
okay,
no. In
okay
other words,
for,
what I'm saying is, some crow is pecking at your back. It might feel entirely justified to respond by pecking back.
Like slug them.
Whatever it may be, you know, insult them. You're being insulted. Whatever it may be, to kind of begin to operate on that level. And so you're saying that the majestic ways, you elevate your character.
You just fly higher.
You just fly higher.
After a while, it's just like, I'm not going to play the petty game. I'm sorry.
Right.
You can play that petty game.
Because we want to keep the mind pure, right? You don't want to bring in all that lower energy into the mind, because that's the mind that we have for our meditation, right? That's the mind that we have for our spiritual practices. So you wanna keep it elevated. Yeah. You know, there's another analogy too. I think Prabhupada used this analogy, but it's another animal analogy. I think Prabhupada
Please tell.
Has to do with the skunk, another widely glorified animal, right? But they say if you kill a skunk, your hands get dirty, or your hands get smelly.
You know what? I like
your hands get
that.
smelly.
That is a mug.
Right?
That is
That's a
short
tattoo
and
right
concise.
there. Mara?
It's short and concise. You kill a skunk, your hands get dirty.
Smelly.
That's
not
better
dirty,
than my whole story.
They get smelly, right?
Oh, the hands get smelly.
Yeah.
Dirty.
So it's like,
they probably get dirty too if you kill a skunk.
It may be dirty, but definitely smelly. Yeah. So it's like a lot of times, even though it's justified, it doesn't. It's just like it just drags you down by getting involved in it. So the yogis kind of like they and you know the great example of that is it was what we're reading, Vidura, right? He had a crow pecking at him in the form of Duryodhana, who was insulting. He was just doing good. He was giving good advice, and but Duryodhana was like, you know, get out of here with nothing but your breath. You know, who is this born of a maidservant, low class? You know, we don't need you. You know, he was just like pecking at him, and he could have fought back, but what did he do? He flew higher.
Mara, while you're at it, can you look up the Oscar Wilde quote on forgiving your enemies? It's a good one.
Okay.
See if you've got that up your sleeve. I like the skunk one better, truthfully. But you know, it's hard because I start to, you know, you feel like you want to get back at them. You feel like it's justified, but yeah, you made the point. It ruins carrying resentment in your mind on a regular basis. It's no good.
When you sit down to chant those mantras on your own in that quiet time, you've gotten up early in the morning, you've bathed your body, you've sat down, you're ready to meditate, you're ready to absorb your mind deeply in the spiritual substance. And then you're meditating on, the crow is pecking at me.
Yeah. Mara, what you got? You got something?
Yeah, I do. Always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much.
I don't know if that's etiquette. It's interesting. So you can win too.
Right. You know, I heard a great one too, which is
another animal.
No animal. It's just like a practical. There's people that you become envious of just in this world, and how do you get rid of envy for a person? You want that. You want what that person has, and instead of like envying them, you serve them.
Serve them.
It's sort of like one of those things that like body slams Maya. You know, it flips the script of the whole thing. So there's someone you're envious of, serve that person, and then it sort of gets rid of that envy. If there's any tension between the two of you, it gets rid of that as well.
You know, this is all just called wisdom, right? It's like
it's
trying
wisdom
to move
stuff.
through life, with wisdom.
This isn't Hare Krishna stuff. This is wisdom stuff.
Wisdom.
It's all wisdom, man.
Yeah.
This is how it's just been channeled through us.
Yeah.
This is all practical stuff. All the sweet baby Krishna stuff, That's our little strange little cult. It's all wisdom. It's our strange little baby worshiping cult we have. We dress up the baby. I was doing puja yesterday, worship, and I was thinking, we're dressing up the baby. It's so weird and cool and interesting, and we're all into it. We're waking up early to do it.
All right.
Well, we are in a good place today in the Srimad Bhagavatam, sir. We are in Canto 3.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3.
We're going to finish chapter 3. We're going to do chapter 3 in just 2 days, yesterday and today. All right?
That's pretty good.
Want to chant the mantras?
Yes, here are the mantras. Narayanam namaskritya, naram shaiva narotamam devim saraswatim, vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Milatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Oh, you know why I got angry? Not angry, but you know I've got like I felt like there's always going to be people that don't like you because someone wrote me on Instagram. I'm sorry, people. There's millions of ways to get information. There's like Facebook messages and WhatsApp messages and Skype messages that I never check. And someone wrote me a nice, genuine, heartfelt message on Instagram, and then I read it, so it was marked as unread, and then it gets just filed thousands of messages lower. Mm-hmm. And then I just forgot about it.
I do that all the time.
The person wrote me back, are like, okay, it's been a week and you haven't written me back. That it was like so nasty. I was like, it was a total mistake. It was a total mistake. That's my Instagram message. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Forgive me. Forgive me.
All right. So, we heard last chapter about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. This chapter, we're hearing this kind of quick run through of Krishna's pastimes outside of Vrindavan. And it kind of built up to the point where the Battle of Kurukshetra happened. Krishna was driving a chariot, right? And a large part of one of the reasons Krishna comes is to relieve the earth of the burden of all these horrible, destructive leaders. Mm. And that especially plays out in the Battle of Kurukshetra, right? Because the earth prayed to Lord Brahma, and they came to Lord Vishnu, and they said, "Please help." Right?
Yep, great story.
Okay, so all that destruction on that battlefield of Kurukshetra, it was to relieve the earth of this burden. But then Krishna says, you know what? The earth's been relieved of the burden, but there's still more burden. There's my own family, the Yadu dynasty, which didn't all get wiped out in the Battle of Kurukshetra.
But weren't they good?
Now that's an important question, right?
Weren't they good? Why do they have to get wiped out? Can't anybody stay on the planet?
Well, yesterday you were asking. We kind of ended right where you're saying this pastime is bewildering. Where the Krishna's family, right? His sons, his relatives, they all get drunk, fight, and kill each other.
You know, my daughter came downstairs. My daughter came downstairs right.
She's upset about this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, yeah, the Yadu dynasty, they all got intoxicated and beat each other with bamboo rods. And my daughter was like, she mouthed, they did?
What?
Why would they do that? You didn't tell me that part of the story. Yeah, that's how the Yadu dynasty left this world.
Right.
And it's a little heartbreaking when you're trying to set all these moral, and this is why we act like Arjuna, and this is why we act like and don't do what the Yadu dynasty did. Who are the Yadu dynasty? Oh, they're all Krishna's relatives.
Okay, so that's bewildering. So we're going to deal with that today to whatever level.
Because I'm
extent
still
we can.
struggling with it.
Yeah, me too. So we're going to have to talk about that. But let's first get to here's a point that I wanted to share. I'm going to read 2 verses because in the 11th canto this all plays out in detail, right? This whole pastime of the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. And in that chapter canto 11, chapter 1, text 6 and 7, it says this, and this is kind of what precedes it. But this also helps us understand a lot of what you and I have been talking about in the past few shows about what is Krishna's Leela all about, because his external reason for coming was to relieve the earth of that burden, right? But the internal reason is really to help us develop love for him, right? To develop prema, right? Love of God. And by displaying his Leela, we have the opportunity to hear it, to understand it, to meditate upon it, you know. So these are texts 6 and 7 from the 11th canto, chapter 1. It says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the reservoir of all beauty. All beautiful things emanate from him, and his personal form is so attractive that it steals the eyes away from all other objects, which then seem devoid of beauty in comparison to him. When Lord Krishna was on the earth, he attracted the eyes of all people. When Krishna spoke, his words attracted the minds of all who remembered them. By seeing the footsteps of Lord Krishna, people became attracted to him, and thus they wanted to offer their bodily activities to the Lord as his followers. In this way, Krishna very easily spread his glories, which are sung throughout the world by the most sublime and essential Vedic verses. Lord Krishna considered that simply by hearing and chanting those glories, this is what we're doing every day, right?
We're doing it right now. We're doing it. We're living
Lord Krishna considered that simply by hearing and chanting those glories, conditioned souls born in the future, that's us, right, would cross beyond the darkness of ignorance. Being satisfied by this arrangement, he left for his desired destination. Okay? So that's the thing. We see other things in this world as attractive, right? We become bewildered by these external things. Krishna comes and displays this Leela so that we'll actually become attracted to that. But we need to hear it. So he needs to come and display it. And then it's shared by the sages and handed down over the ages.
And it's got to be a good story, or else we won't even listen. So there's always there's always ups and downs and twists and turns and good and bad and demons and angels and forest fires that he has to consume.
Wizards.
I love when Prabhupada translates
Snake people.
Wizards. Snake people. If it wasn't so fantastic, we'd be like, boring.
Right. And so anyway, the end is not boring either, right? Now, so we need to get to the end. So let's maybe we could just read what happens. Maybe we can just read these last verses. And actually, let's not even read all the last verses. Let's just summarize. But, you know, we ended with the Battle of Kurukshetra yesterday, and then it moves on to Dwarka, and it describes Krishna's life in Dwarka, and it describes how he's living like strictly according to the Vedic teachings, but he's enjoying life deeply that way. He's enjoying life as a family man, you know, with... You know, he expands into many different forms, and he has many different wives and many different sons and family members and
man.
He's like he's
more
like
than a family man.
He's family man.
Forms.
Yeah,
he's men.
Yeah. So he's enjoying that life there, according to all the Vedic customs, and then at a certain point he departs. It's time for him and his entire dynasty. Now you ask the question, well. And I think it's even said here that why is it a burden? Why is the Yadu? We get it, like Kamsa and Duryodhana and Jarasandha and so many of these other kings that died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. We get it how they were a burden on the earth. They were cruel leaders. They were oppressive, etc., etc. But why Krishna's family, who are all pure devotees, why aren't they a pleasure to the earth? You know, why are they a burden?
That's
So-
the question of the day.
Okay, question of the day. So really, this is the way the teachers like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami describe it. That term burden and how it's used and why it's used. They give some examples, but the idea is Krishna comes, he displays the pastimes. He doesn't come alone. He comes with his associates, and then he departs. So it's time for him to depart and all of his associates to depart. And there had to be it plays out in some kind of fantastic way. But and we'll get to that. But in terms of the burden, this is what they say. They say the burden of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna's family, it's not the same burden that the other kings were. It's a different kind of burden. And they give examples, 3 examples of different kind of burdens that are actually pleasurable, right? So it's almost like a poetic thing when it's talking about them. They say the burden of the weight of the husband on the wife, right? It's a bit risque.
It's a little risque. Who gave that analogy?
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, right? Right. In other words, there's a weight on her, but that weight is pleasurable. The weight.
It seems such like an out of character analogy
at all.
for a great acharya.
Hey, this isn't prudish, Raghunath. Okay, it's like that's just a fact of life. Okay, it's like they can handle this. We can handle it. We're mature here, right?
Well, there is a part of the Bhagavatam where Bhishma says Krishna's arrows are like the biting of a neck of a woman biting a man's
Love
neck.
bites.
Love bites.
Yeah,
That's actually in the text of the Bhagavatam, right?
I believe so.
I remember reading that as a brahmachari. I was like, what the heck am I reading?
You see, whenever Raghunath Swami says that, like, we sannyasis, we don't know about this, but from what we've heard, a lover can appreciate the bite of another lover, right? Yeah.
I've got that thought out of my mind for years now.
It's back in there. So the weight
And
of
now you come at me with this analogy? Come on, Kaustubha.
But doesn't it help to understand? Now I'll give you a more PG-13 or even
Thank you,
rated G.
please.
Okay, here's
I'm
another
trying
one.
to keep my whole life G here, and you're coming at me with
Here's
these.
another one. The weight. You're gonna love this one, Raghunath.
Okay.
The weight of the child on the lap of the mother.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there we
Okay.
go. That's there. Let's keep it there.
All right.
Trying really hard to deal with the demons here. I don't need any. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, it may be sometimes you see a mother, they have to carry the child, it's heavy, or the child is always like wriggling around and being kind of little, but still the mother loves that feeling, right? You love that feeling, right? I've seen you just like sit down in public places and someone has a baby and you're like, can I hold the baby? You like doing that, don't you?
I like holding people's babies, especially now that I don't have to hold babies anymore. Now it's like, now it's more fun. Back in the day of just holding babies, it's like backbreaking.
But
It's wonderful. It's
you
wonderful
see?
and
There you go.
backbreaking. you know?
Okay. So the burden in the other dynasty was like that. It was like they were heavy, but it was for the earth. It was a pleasure. That burden was a pleasure. And then the third one was the burden of wealth on the wealthy man. In other words, I think that means like, say you got a big bag of money, right? The bigger it is, the heavier it is. But actually, for materialists, the happier they are, right?
Yeah,
They'd rather have a
that's
big,
nice.
heavy bag of money than a light bag of money.
Yeah. It's a burden
Okay.
of cash.
So those 3, right? The burden of the weight of the husband on the wife, the burden of the weight of the child on the lap of the mother, and the burden of wealth on the wealthy man. Those 3 examples are given. So,
I like
Yeah.
that.
okay, so when we said that the Yadu dynasty was a burden, it was a totally different burden, but it was time to cut out. Krishna had displayed his pastimes, right? Had relieved the world of that one burden, and now he and all of his family were going to leave. But he's not going to do it in a typical way. He's going to do it in some fantastic way, some wild way,
Yeah, it's all
And-
wild.
Yeah, and so
And now we're going to go into the wild way, how Krishna left the planet.
Yeah.
But before we do that, it's time, and I know you've probably been interested in this, Mara and Kaustubha, but it's time for our daily Krishna conscious tongue twister. Submitted.
no, we
by-
do not have a daily Krishna
submitted-
consciousness.
submitted
That is
by-
not
no,
part of the
this
show. We didn't discuss this?
This is submitted by Bhakta Jason.
Okay.
Okay, here, check that. Delivering death, Drishtajumna decapitated Dronacharya.
And that's
3 times quick.
that is really good. Even
Delivering death
Drishtadyumna
Drishtadyumna
is
decapitated Dronacharya.
that is
Delivering
really good. Yeah,
death. Okay.
that's a award winner.
If
Even
anyone's
this,
going to join my tongue twisting Krishna conscious tongue twisting team, you can just I guess message them at me on Instagram so you can become mad if I don't see them. But yes,
just
we'll
the
put
name
them here on our
Drishtadyumna is a tongue twister in itself. So it was
Delivering
brilliant to
delivering
include
death
that.
Drishtadyumna decapitated Dronacharya.
Hmm.
You really got to know the stories too to do them.
Say it again, one more time.
Delivering death Drishtadyumna decapitated Dronacharya. Oh, come
Really
on.
good.
Ram rests on redwood roots. That was a hard one too. Ram rests on redwood roots.
But does he?
Well, he rested on roots. I don't know if they were redwoods.
You see,
I didn't
Now,
go around
Drishtadyumna
there with
did
my
decapitate
my
Drona.
field guide and see what trees he was resting on.
Okay. So let's move on. All right, from that fantastic tongue twister.
Thank
And,
you, Jason.
Now, what happened? The way that this whole thing, this battle between this what is it? Fratricidal? Is that right? Fratricidal. Mara? Any thumbs up?
Yep.
Okay. So the origin of this fratricidal war, wherein the Yadu dynasty all killed themselves, was the offense to the sages. You want to tell what happened, Raghu?
Well, I tell a much more embellished version.
Well, I wouldn't ask without
some
knowing
people
it.
say because I'm changing the story, but I say because I have a deep inner vision.
You're making
of
it
what
better.
happened.
It's like when the parrot pecks at the mango, it becomes all the sweeter, right? When you taste it. Raghu.
Yes.
Okay.
So there were these kids, and they were playing a joke.
They weren't any kids. Who were they?
They were the children of the Yadu dynasty.
And Krishna's own sons, even, right?
Yeah, Samba, and so they took this iron club and put it under their shirt.
No, they didn't. It
They
wasn't an
dressed up
iron
like a
club.
woman.
But it wasn't an iron club, right? That it after the curse, it became an iron club.
Oh, I thought it was an iron club, and they said you're going to give birth to an iron club, and they
No,
hid an
no,
iron
no.
club under the shirt.
No. They went there and they just put anything under there.
All right.
All right. Started like that, and then we'll get to
All right.
that.
Let's pretend my story's right, just for the sake of the story.
No, it does.
They
It
took
doesn't.
an iron
It
club.
ruins the story. Actually, it ruins the story because when they got cursed, and then they looked, and there was an iron club, they were shocked.
Oh, when they take off their clothes, there was an iron club under there?
And let me tell this story, Raghunath, because
Harvard says, I think it's an iron club.
No. This is what happened. They were just goofing around, you know. They're
Mara,
just
get to the
goofing
bottom
around,
of this, please.
and there were these
12th
sages.
canto.
It's the 11th canto.
11th
You see,
canto.
maybe it's from the 13th canto, your story, but it's ain't from the 11th. All right. So Krishna's sons and these young princes, they were kind of goofing around. And you don't goof around with the sages. You respect the sages.
Don't
right?
goof around with the sages. That's a
Right.
T-shirt, too.
That's right. And so what they did was they kind of dressed one of them up. They wrapped him in a sari, and they stuffed whatever, underneath. And they pretended he was pregnant. And they said to the sages, "Oh, dear sages, you have the ability to foresee the future and everything. You're so wise. Can you tell us, will it be a boy or will it be a girl?" That's what they said. Okay? That's what
Right.
happened. Okay. And then what did the sages say?
The sages said,
Fool.
"Oh, you will give birth to an iron club that will be the destruction of your entire dynasty."
That's right. They didn't. They were like, you know what?
But I don't get it. It doesn't make sense unless there was a club.
No,
under the-
just hold on. Just hold on. Just hold on. So they said, fools. Right? You will give birth to an iron club that will be the destruction of your entire dynasty. Then, pay attention, Raghu, because this is a part of this story you gotta embrace here. All right?
Gotcha.
Then they looked under the cloth, and there was indeed now, not before, but now, by the
Changed into an iron
power
club.
of the sage's curse, there was an iron club there.
All right. Somehow I missed the magical transference of like whatever a ball of cloth.
Yeah. No, so now they were shocked, and now they realized, oh no, we made a big mistake, right? We were goofing around in front of these very respectable people We, in our own minds and hearts, we devalued them and behaved in an improper way, and now we're going to pay for it because they're cursed. I mean, look, you can tell the curse is going to happen because here's the iron club. It's not just words. It really, it's already taking place.
Vishvamitra is the one that cursed them.
Yeah, there was a whole group of those big time. It was like the big names, you know. They were all there.
Sages, the celebrity stages,
Big
sages.
A-list sages were
Aaron,
there.
did you find that to clarify that if I was wrong?
It's not clear.
It's not clear. So
It
maybe
is
we just
clear.
read it differently.
It is
Maybe we
clear.
just read
I mean,
it.
there's nothing that confirms that what you're saying is
Well,
that there
there's
is an iron
let me
club
put it this
underneath.
way.
me.
Does it say that they put an iron club underneath their thing and then went to
No.
this? No.
It doesn't
Okay.
say that,
So
okay.
it
doesn't
is.
say
yeah,
that.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So when they looked there and they
Does it
saw
say
that
magically transformed into an iron club? Does it say that?
No. It says, and indeed they observed that therein was an iron club. So that was when they,
okay.
but the boys were terrified because,
Thank you.
yeah.
I mean, if they had put an iron club there, they wouldn't have been terrified. They're like, well, of course, there's an iron club. You know, like that would have been like a small mystic thing to know that there was an iron club. But they made an iron club appear there. That was
All
it.
right.
All right.
I read it wrong.
All right.
Got
All
it
right.
wrong all these years. But I will say, never prank the sages. Never try to punk the sages. It's just
That's
not
an
a good
important
habit.
point, right? That's a really important point. That even and so Krishna illustrates so many things through each passage. Even his own sons, even those that were so deeply and dearly, you know, intimate with him, you know, it's shown even they can't, you know, disrespect great souls.
I've realized I've told that story wrong for many, many years.
They put an iron club underneath.
They put an iron club, and you know what came out? An iron club came out.
So there's that. There is that message there. So then, what did they do with the iron club then?
Well, they were then they brought it to Ugrasen, the king.
Yeah.
They said, I don't know what to do. We just got cursed. He said, grind this into powder.
Yeah.
And so he ground it into powder, and they threw it into the ocean. And on the ocean, this is another weird part of the story. They say the powder sort of grew into bamboo. Now I don't know how that happened. How does powder? And a piece of it was swallowed by a fish.
That's right. Yeah.
Now,
So they were just like, oh, man, this thing is inauspicious. This club is really inauspicious. Let's grind it up, take it out to the ocean, throw it in the ocean. And so the grindings, the dust, whatever it is, it kind of washed back in, and it grew into like reeds.
Does that mean it grew, or it just grew around?
Well, it says that it grew that way. It grew that way.
A mystical thing.
There's a bit of a mystical. It's been mystical right from the beginning, has it not been a bit mystical?
Yeah, but I'm thinking, come on.
Just accept it.
Really?
Open up. Why not, Raghunath? Why not?
I know.
Okay.
And
And
it grew into bamboo, and then the fish.
Then
ate
a
the
fish.
last little nub.
right. Now that becomes significant, right?
Yeah, because when they cut open that fish to butcher the fish, they found
Who
this
cut
piece
open
of
the fish?
iron.
Who?
Jara.
Jara. That's right.
Jara,
So there
this
was a hunter named Jara, and he cut open a fish, and he found a piece of iron in there. And what did he do with that piece of iron?
Well, if you're a hunter, and you're making an arrow, it's hard to make an arrow. You know what it takes to make an arrowhead?
Well,
It's
generally you have a
hours
rock
of
and-
work.
Oh, okay.
It's called flint napping. Do you ever heard of that? Flint napping?
Okay. It's new to
Anybody
me,
know
the
what
term.
flint
Yeah.
napping is? You take a piece of flint and you do this. You chip like this. Boom, tick,
Mhm.
tick, tick. And if you do it wrong, it ruins your hours of work. It's an incredible meditation to make arrows if you've ever tried to do it. Flint napping. Anyway, he's like, how easy? It's already made. It's a sharp piece of metal. You know how they?
I don't know if it was.
hear
I don't know
a
if
sharp
you're
piece of
detailed.
metal to
I don't know if it
this-
was already made, but it said that he made it out of it. He took that and said, "Oh, great piece of metal to make an arrowhead out of."
You sharpen
I
it.
believe.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
At that point.
Okay. So then what happens? That arrowhead's going to become real important.
I was about
Now
to give you
that
some
the-
primitive living advice, but okay, let's go on with the story.
Oh, by the way, here's the A-list sages that were insulted in this way. Ready?
Ready?
Vishwamitra, Asita, Kanva, Durvasa. Oh man, you don't say this kind of thing in
You
front of
don't say that kind
Durvasa.
of thing. You don't pray. The last thing you want to do is prank Durvas Muni.
No,
This guy
don't do it.
He gets
It,
angry quick.
it can wipe out your dynasty.
You ever wonder why? Like, why do these sages get angry? Why are they so angry? They always get angry, man.
Sometimes they do. You know why? Because they're not tolerating a dharma, right? They're
Yeah.
preserving dharma with that anger, right? It's keeping everyone on their toes, right? So there's
And their
Vishwamitra.
blessings. And their blessings, actually.
And their
The
blessings,
curses
yeah.
are blessings.
That's true, right?
It's like if
So-
a good father corrects you.
That's right. Like your kids may say, "Why is Dad always angry?" Right? So Vishwamitra, Asita, Kanva, Durvasa, Brigu, right? You're into Brigu, right?
Well, you love Brigu. He's the
What?
mystic. He's
Yeah,
like the
but-
mystic astrology.
Yeah, the mystic astrology. Angira was there, Kasyapa, Vamadeva, Atri, and Vashishta, along with Narada. Narada was there too, and there were other sages as well. They were all
What are they
there.
having like a
They hang
meetup?
out. They
A
like each
sage
other's-
meetup?
It was a gathering.
Sage
Yeah.
gathering. Just hang all the great sages together. That's like
This is what they said. Yeah, this is what they said. They said, "Oh, learned brahmanas, this black-eyed pregnant woman has something to ask you. She is too embarrassed to inquire for herself. She is just about to give birth and is very desirous of having a son. Since all of you are great sages with infallible vision, please tell us whether her child will be a boy or a girl." Ha ha ha! And like, they're like,
Just teenagers just being teenagers.
yeah, kids, right?
Just teenagers being teenagers.
Thus
My
ridiculed.
kids are always trying to prank me.
Yeah. Okay. So then the next verse is thus ridiculed
Our
by this.
family has hours of fun with rubber snakes. Like hours
Tyrone
and
tried to get me
hours
with
of
that.
enjoyment with rubber snakes.
Tyrone tried to get me with a rubber snake trick last time we were in the Eco Village.
My son tried to get you with rubber snake.
Yeah, he tried to trick me with the rubber snake trick.
He got moga really well. He put it like right under the bed and set it or right under the sheets. So when you pull the sheets open, it springs up a little. And we were riding away on the bicycle, and we just hear, "Yeah!"
Did she curse you?
I tell you, rubber snakes are so good. You put them on a string, forget it. Those things are so.
That's what he did. It was on a string.
I once put one in a pizza box for my wife,
Hmm.
and she opened it, videotaped the whole thing.
Did it work?
It was great. She lost her mind.
Okay. So now this is what happened. This is text 16. Right after that, after it lists all those what they said. Oh, this black-eyed girl. Will she have a boy or a girl? Ha 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 ha. Thus ridiculed by deceit, the sages became angry, O king, and told the boys, "Fools! She will bear an iron club that will destroy your entire dynasty."
Pranks.
Upon hearing the curse of the sages, the terrified boys quickly uncovered the belly of Samba. Indeed, they observed that therein was an iron club. Right. Now you get it, Raghu?
Yeah, now I get it.
Okay.
Mystically transformed into an iron club.
Right.
So now the hunter's going hunting.
Well, now, first of all, let's now what happens, and this is discussed right here at the end of this the chapter that we're reading right now, chapter 3. It says that the Yadu dynasty, the women and the children and the old men, they went to one place because Krishna predicted that everything's going to fall apart now, and the men, they went to Prabhas, a holy place on the bank of the ocean, and they begin to do rituals, right? They honored all the brahmanas of that area, and it says thereafter they offered. This is text 28, the end of chapter 3. Thereafter, they offered the brahmanas highly delicious foodstuffs. First offered to God, and offered their respectful obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. They lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the brahmanas. That's the last verse to this chapter. Interesting, right?
Yeah. They lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the Brahmins.
Yeah, the cows and the brahmanas. So this is what Prabhupada says in the commentary. He says, the behavior exhibited by the descendants of Yadu, these are the people that are about to get drunk and kill each other, right? So I think the pastime is showing they were elevated. Their consciousness was elevated. This was a pastime. This was a play that went on as part of their way of departing from this world and returning to the spiritual realm. So it says the behavior of the descendants of Yadu in the pilgrimage site of Prabhasa was highly cultured and exactly to the point of human perfection. Okay, how do we want to live in human perfection? What's the exact point? The perfection of human life is attained by following three principles of civilization: protecting the cows, maintaining the brahminical culture, and above
Failed
all,
at both of those so far.
and
in our
above
country.
all, becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. Well, you got the most important one, Raghu, right there.
Prabhu.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm serious, man. So this is, this is how civilization is really. This is what the yoga tradition is saying. This is how civilization reaches its perfection. How we treat animals, right, is very important, and in particular, the cow and the bull are always spoken of because the cow and the bull provide all of our needs. How can you be provided by someone and not appreciate them, right? How could you kill them? So between the bull, which is plowing the fields, the cow, which is providing milk and fertilizer and disinfectant and everything right from its own body, it's a mother. You have to
Cow
see it that
urine,
way.
the best
Disinfectant,
insecticide out
insecticide, right? Don't need chemicals.
there. Don't eat chemicals.
Don't
but
need big
Wash
tractors.
those veggies once you harvest them.
You don't need big.
You want to wash it off.
You don't need big tractors and oil and refineries and all that. No. Fuel. You don't even need electricity. If you want to light your home, you plow the field. You grow some castor. You grind up those seeds, and the bull can grind those seeds for you too, right?
Yeah.
And you
Then
make some
love that
castor oil.
bull.
You light up your home. You need clothes. You grow the cotton right out of the fields. You need food, nutrition. Everything's provided by the cow and the bull and Mother Earth, right? If you don't honor them, you're missing the entire point. If you're thinking you need more than that, you're missing the entire point, and you start to go down a destructive path. So one honors the cows, and then it says one honors the brahmanas. And the way that I understand that, it means that society has to value wisdom, and there have to be people within society whose duty it is to preserve wisdom, right, and share wisdom. And you have to honor those people that are capable of doing that. That's a real civilization, right?
Right. Because they're the heads of society. Tom Essig writes on the board, cow dung equals healing properties. We had this incident where we were having kirtan in Pushkar in Rajasthan, this holy city.
Mm-hmm.
This beautiful kirtan, people around, a bunch of, right under this banyan tree. And all of a sudden, this wasp bites Tom right on the neck out of nowhere, sort of like, oh, help Tom. We didn't know, it was sort of like one of these awkward moments because you're having this ecstatic kirtan and one of your guys goes down. It must have happened to you.
Yeah, what's going down? Tom's going down.
Lori Pag remembers. And so there were these like holy men living under a tree, and they immediately went up to Tom, grabbed some cow dung. And first of all, they started like nursing Tom. So he's like, okay, sure, help me out here. But their way of nursing him was they grabbed cow dung and smeared it on his neck. And I was like, okay, anything can happen now.
That's the glory of India.
Let's see if this cow dung really works, or he's going to be incredibly.
Did it work, Tom? Did it work?
Let's see what Tom writes on the board.
He's waving. That doesn't mean yes
Tom
or no.
Said Tom said he was allergic, so he could have also died from this.
Whoa.
This sting, but his whole neck swelled up,
And
it
the cow
wasn't
dung
from
worked.
the cow dung. It wasn't from the cow dung. Tom
What
says,
was
"I'm
it?
still here." Cow
Oh,
dung.
he's okay. Right. Yeah, that's the glory of India. There's always a little cow dung. There's always like some antiseptic, medicine lying around all over the streets.
Then there's the story of my daughter and the guy in the cow dung.
No, we've heard that. That was too crazy.
Won't tell that again. Won't tell it again, but it's a damn good story.
Hello, Haribol. Okay, so
You gotta find
I don't
a
know.
back episode.
Yeah, Mayor, maybe if you can
Find
find that, there was a cow dung episode we had. If you want to go back, they can go to
You
that
wanna go
one.
back?
Okay. So after demonstrating, the depth of their culture and the depth of their civility by honoring the cows and honoring the brahmanas and demonstrating their own devotion to God, they got drunk. Right? They drank some kind of wine. They started to argue.
Does it say what type of alcohol it was?
It says exactly what kind of alcohol it was somewhere in the 11th canto, but I forget what it is. And but it isn't like something like that we're familiar with, some other kind of
Exotic.
fermented drink, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then they start to argue with one another. And then what do they reach for? Because they're on these reeds, right? And it says that as soon as they grabbed them, they became hard like iron. And they just started fighting and killing each other. And they just kept fighting until they were all dead. There was only Krishna and Balaram left, right? And then
Very
Krishna...
disheartening. It
Yeah,
was a
and
very
then-
disheartening part of the Bhagavatam.
You have to see it you have to understand,
You got to understand the reason why this is happening.
I mean, I'm speculating
Obviously,
now.
I'm still not getting it.
I'm speculating now when I say this, okay? So I want to be clear about that. But there are ways that we fight that are pleasurable. Like we were talking about the flower festival, right? In Mumbai, and we have this festival every year where in the morning you pick tons and tons of flower petals.
Literally tons.
Literally tons. And then in the evening, those petals are showered upon the Radha and Krishna in the temple. And then they're all collected, and they bring them up to the balconies. And then as the kirtan's going on and this beautiful thing, they start to rain literally tons of flower petals on everyone. So it's like it's building up like snow, right? It's like
Piles of snow.
thick
yeah.
levels of
flowers.
flowers all over. And then everyone picks up those flowers, and then they fight, right? They start to throw flowers at each other. And,
Yeah.
The bigger pile of flowers and the harder you can hit someone right in the face, the better. But it's just like what we're hearing about, like the burden of the earth. Well, there's the burden of the weight of the lover, the burden of the weight of the child. It's like a pleasurable burden. This fight is a pleasurable fight, right? And we see other food fights and other kind of fights go on like that. So perhaps this fight was it's different than any other kind of slaughter that we experience. It's not the same thing.
Just
And-
pause for a moment and think of like, where else can you do that? Where can you get in a flower petal fight with somebody?
Right.
Like this is only in Bhakti you come up with these things. Flower petal fights?
Yeah.
What other religious path can you do? that?
Or colored dyes, right?
Colored dyes. Imagine going into like Catholic mass with a blue squirt bottle,
You see,
squirting everybody.
Even Krishna and the
What'll
gopis, they
work?
fight like that, right? They have the dyes with like colored dyes, fights with colored dyes, and they're squirting each other, right? There's battle, right? So in any case, they have that fight. They all die. Balaram and Krishna are left. Balaram departs for the spiritual realm, and Krishna sits down under a pipal tree, right?
People tree. Oh,
People tree.
people
yeah.
tree. Oh, I just did research. What's a people tree? I think a people tree is I can't remember. I think it's a type of banyan, a people. P-I-P-A-L.
He sits
Yeah,
under
can
that
you check
people
that out?
tree.
People tree.
And there's a description of the Lord sitting there. You want to hear the description?
Please.
It says the Lord was
ficus. It's a ficus, a people tree.
I bought my wife gifts for Christmas. I bought her 2 books about like trees and nature.
Yeah.
But I bought her one. It's called what was it called again? I don't know. Something like 80 trees in 80 days or something. I'll find out. But each chapter is short chapters about 80 different trees, and it goes into detail about each tree and what's special about it. It's so cool, It's
Were they
amazing.
Indian trees or all trees?
Trees from it actually divides them in different sections of the world. Like there's like a group of ones in Southeast Asia and a group of ones in Africa. It goes around the world like that.
Because they're really into horticulture, and especially in the Vedas, they speak about, like in the Bhagavatam, you'll hear all these different flowering trees and herbs,
Yep.
but they give it the Sanskrit name because obviously the Sanskrit name was around before the Latin name.
Mm-hmm.
But to find, this is what my mission is in life,
What?
is to find the Sanskrit trees and flowers and match it up with the Latin ones.
I think
And
it's
then-
already been done. I think your
Already done.
mission has already been
My
accomplished
mission's been
by
accomplished.
people that actually know about it. by botanists,
Well, there's my life's mission. It's
You did
over.
it. You can depart
Now
now.
what do I do? I just find that book. But an easy guide for people practicing bhakti. A banyan tree it's the same as a holy fig.
It's cool, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna, I was thinking I'm gonna read 1 tree a day, and maybe there'd be some cool stuff to share on the show. So I got to get into that,
I
Because
love
my
that.
wife, we sit down to eat, and she says, "Oh, you got to hear about this tree and what it does. It's amazing. It's amazing. They do amazing stuff."
All right, I'm totally in. I'm
All
totally
right.
in.
I'll
Love
find
trees.
that book. Maybe tomorrow I'll tell you all the title of it. Okay. The Lord was exhibiting his brilliantly effulgent four-armed form, the radiance of which, just like a smokeless fire, dissipated the darkness in all directions. So this horrible slaughter just took place. In one sense, horrible, right? Mystical,
Yeah, mystically
mystical
wonderful.
divine play of the Lord.
Divine play.
And divine
externally horrible.
And so he sits down and he displays not just his normal Krishna form, but his forearm, like Vishnu kind of. He's got
Majestic
forearms.
form.
Yeah. Just like a smokeless fire dissipates the darkness in all directions. His complexion was the color of a dark blue cloud, and his effulgence the color of molten gold. And his all-auspicious form bore the mark of Shrivatsa. Right?
Coast.
Doesn't mention the Kaustubha. It does, actually. Yeah, it does. A beautiful smile graced his lotus face. So he wasn't upset, right? This is all play for him in one sense, somehow, right? A beautiful smile graced his lotus face. Locks of dark blue hair adorned his head. His lotus eyes were very attractive. His shark-shaped earrings glittered. He wore a pair of silken garments, an ornament belt, the sacred thread, bracelets, and arm ornaments, along with a helmet, the Kaustubha jewel, necklaces, anklets, and other royal emblems. So it's just this divine vision here, right? Encircling his body were flower garlands, and his personal weapons in their embodied forms. Have you ever seen the painting of this in the 11th canto? He's sitting there, and the personification of the club, the lotus, the conch, and the disc are sitting there with him, and they're all like glowing. And it was done by Gauravani's father, Bhardaraj. It's an incredible painting.
Can't remember that painting.
Yeah. And as he sat, now this is important, he held his left foot with its lotus red sole upon his right thigh.
Left foot upon his right thigh. So you're sitting in lotus. That's how you do lotus. You put your right leg up, and you put your left leg on top, and you hold your foot.
So then what happened? Someone saw that foot.
Someone saw that foot and thought
But it's
it
so
was a
beautiful, that foot, right?
beautiful foot. And he thought it was a deer.
Yeah. Who was it?
Jara, the hunter.
Who is the same?
Who fashioned the bow
That's
with
right.
that little piece of metal they found in the fish, and he shot it right at Krishna's Achilles.
No, he shot it at the toe.
Didn't know it hit him in that.
See, that's where you embellish these stories so many times that you begin to think that that's the actual story. It had nothing to do with his
Krishna didn't get
Achilles.
shot in the ankle?
No, he got shot in the toe.
Google that, please.
It was the toe. Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's read. Let's see. Just then the hunter Jara, who had approached the
I'm
Lord,
thinking of Achilles, maybe.
he mistook the
Just do some
Lord's
research, please.
he mistook the Lord's foot for a deer's face, thinking he had found his prey. Jara pierced the foot with his arrow, which he had fashioned from the remaining iron fragment of Samba's club. Now this is amazing, right? Then, seeing the four-armed personality, the hunter became terrified of the offense he had committed. He fell down, placing his head at the feet of the enemy of the demons. Jara said, "O Lord Madhusudana." Now this is a hunter, right?
Right.
"O Lord Madhusudana, I'm a most sinful person. I've committed this act out of ignorance. O purest Lord, O Uttama Shloka, one who is glorified by beautiful verses, please forgive this sinner. O Lord Vishnu, the learned say that for any man, constant remembrance of you will destroy the darkness of ignorance. O Master, I have wronged you. Therefore, O Lord of Vaikuntha, please kill the sinful hunter of animals immediately, so that he may not again commit such offenses against saintly persons." Amazing, right?
He's amazing. So this is the hunter.
This is a hunter.
Understanding his position, apologizing, and begging the Lord for mercy.
It's just another lesson, isn't it?
Like
That-
here's
that-
the hunter's got great. Despite his activities, the hunter's got a very good consciousness.
Yeah, he's like a devotee,
Yeah.
right? He's got humility and devotion, And I think that it's such an important point, because I think the tendency within religious communities is that the you could say like the rules that are meant to be followed, which are meant to elevate one's consciousness and ultimately soften the heart, often harden one's heart and make one become judgmental. Yeah.
You think you're better, you become more judgmental. And this is why this is how the whole show started. It's coming full circle.
That's right. It's coming around.
It's coming full circle.
It's coming around.
People are going to be petty. People are going to be rude. People are going to be cruel. And if we're petty back to them, it's a problem. We stay in that material consciousness. If our religious practice, so to speak, is making us arrogant, or anything we do for social welfare, caring for people or caring for animals, if it's making us arrogant, we got some problems, because arrogance and hate is the real problem.
Real quick, there's something I wanted to share, but maybe I'll have to share another time because we're running out of time.
We're running out of time, man.
Yeah, but I wanted to share you something about prostitution, okay? We're going to go. We're going to go. I want to share with you something about how we shouldn't judge prostitutes, okay?
Should we start the show with prostitutes? You want to talk about prostitutes right now?
We can do it tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow we're going to start off with prostitutes. Don't miss that show. A lot of good info there.
Tomorrow's Sleeping Saturday, right? Anything happening, Mary?
It's Q&A day.
Send in questions like quick if you're going to send in any for this week, right? We got to keep reminding people to send in questions. I think we got a lot left over from.
Okay, don't forget the prostitutes.
But we got to talk about prostitutes.
All right, thanks. I've moved my yoga class to 7 a.m. So me and Parmananda, we go back and forth Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 7 a.m. supersoulyoga.com. Join me this morning, 7 a.m. for yoga class. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Thanks for our live Zoom group. Appreciate getting to know this community. And thanks for all the others out there listening, doing their duties in the material world, and hearing the Bhagavatam, purifying our consciousness. This is great. I'm really liking up. You know, I did one of those things today, Kaustubha. I went to bed early, set my clock for 3 a.m. Alarm went off. I was like, it's 3 a.m. I'm going to wake up, going to chant rounds. I'm just going to think about something for a moment. And then I fell back to sleep. Never let Maya trick you and say, I'm going to think about something. Don't think about anything. Get out of bed. Stand up immediately. Get up and never go, I'm going to think about something while you're in bed. Because I woke up like at 4:22, like an hour and 20 minutes later. And
Get out of the bed.
My morning thing. And that's precious time, that morning time. Thanks, everybody. Hey, check out my website, Raghunath.yoga. We have a trip to Nepal. I'm taking a crew on. It's almost sold out in April. If you want to get out, it's a beautiful time to be in Nepal. It's an ancient kingdom, Vedic kingdom, holy places, sacred rivers, and half the time we're going to be trekking through the Himalayas. 1,300 Himalayan peaks. Did you know that? 1,300 Himalayan peaks in Nepal.
Thank you for that trivia.
We're not going to Everest, though, but we'll see it.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Let's dance and sing.